Hi, I am Almitra. I am telling you this short story naming Between Daydreams by myself. This short story is for my dearest love. Fantasizing has always been my superpower and my shield. Through my fantasies, I have built 1001 story. I have traveled through space, I have conquered my fears, and I have conquered the world. I don't know when I start fantasize. I guess it's just me. I know that my fantasies have saved me in many moments in my life. You already know that life can be quite cruel and sometimes we need to escape in order to stay. When I was 7 years old, the maxim of cruel appeared on my door. The guerrillas in El Salvador were on the surface. El Salvador was experiencing an internal war. This poor Central American country was a victim of the Cold War. The guerrillas, fed by the Soviets and the official armed force by the United States of America. The people were the ones who suffered that consequence. Many of them emigrate and some of them arrive in Costa Rica. I was a girl with a great fantasy, but not even my fantasies could erase those nightmares. I saw documentaries of the Salvadoran army forces as sexual abuse children and babies, killing their mothers in front of them, and the image that I had never managed to erase from my memory is a hungry baby, small, very thin, almost starving, crying very strongly, and an armor degenerate pulled out his erect penis and put the baby to socket. After he finished, he shot him in the head and killed him. I was 7 years old when I saw that documentary. It was horrible. That day, my fantasy saved me. I had never understood human cruelty, but the wars and guerrillas, which later gave rise to all the Salvatrucha gangs that flooded the streets and prisons of the United States of America, were the product of those human perversions. I dreamed and fantasies about different worlds. My fantasies were around a man who loved and protected me, a man who saw in me the most beautiful woman in the world, a man who was the father of my children, an intelligent man who made me vibrate. Some of my fantasy lasted for weeks. I managed to visualize each of the details of that parallel life that protect me from the dark walls that exist. Those fantasies allow me to protect my brothers and sisters. They allow me to take care of other children, but they didn't allow me to be able to take care of myself. God has always protected me, but for some strange reason, the cruelty of others has always been there. Human injustice, the pain of others forced me to give myself, forced me to fight for their rights and for a more dignified life regardless of whether or not someone has money, whether or not someone has power. My fantasies allowed me to raise my voice for those who had been silenced and even fantasize about being president. But this was not a fantasy. This was different. It was a dream, or so it seems. He was interacting with me. He was saving me from myself. He was hugging me from a distance, and definitely what I had seen, read, and heard from him always caught my attention. His ideas open to life, to tolerance, to the existence of diverse realities. His voice for those who had no voice. He was like two people, the actor and the person. As an actor, a wonderful actor, handsome and with an excellent body. But as a person, he made me fantasize, his cutting and pertinent comments, his solidarity for those who have the less, his closeness to the person on foot, and suddenly he is here with me, filling me his life, filling me with his life. It is difficult for someone like me who has to had to fight for herself and for others, who has had to be strong so that others can live, to believe that something this good can happen to them, that something this good can happen to me. This is unbelievable. I had already give up. I was convinced that at my age, no man was going to take me seriously. No man was going to love me, much less want to start a family with me. But, but there he was, undressing my soul, discovering my spirit, speaking to me inside. How? How can I believe that something like this can be true? How to dream of something like this if was better than a fantasy? In my fantasy, I would bump into him at the Boston airport, talk about politics and religions, discuss the future of the people of the United States, while I was preparing to give a lecture on sign language at the University of Boston or at MIT. But this was different. This was real. The reverie was not the academic mystery that made me fly between articles and books. The reverie was the reality that connected me to my deepest inner self. He was not the man who awakened the sexual fantasy of some men and many women. He was not the enigmatic actor that everyone wanted to know about. It was him in the nude. It was his soul vibrating with me. It was his inner voice grating my spirit. Reality definitely has undertones of unreality, but this trip, this path, only makes me think of a commitment for eternity. It is not a fairy tale of they live happily ever after. It is an opportunity to live and exist together until the end of our days, between joys and sorrows, between games and paradigms, between realities and struggles, naked with the soul exposed, naked without stereotypes or pretensions, just souls naked. This reality has a dreamlike tingle, but I know it is reality because I see in his eyes. His eyes speak of me. His eyes speak of us. His eyes reveal the hidden secrets of my spirit and whisper in my ear that all this reality is better than a daydreaming, which is not a fantasy that will save me from reality, is a reality that will liberate me from fantasy and create a new world together.